Well, hello there. This is Dr. Dell, and this is my great pleasure to have an interview with a wonderful gal named Margie Abbott, who's been a wonderful resource for triad math for many years now. And it all started with her own story, which was very inspirational to me and to a lot of other people. And I want to have Margie tell you her story, how she came to know triad math and her opinion about it, what happened. So, Margie, welcome.
Yeah, this is a story that really is near and dear to my heart. We homeschooled for around 30 years and we had six children. And we tried very hard to not necessarily do things like everybody else, but the one place we really stuck to the traditional way was math. We just taught our kids, I began to realize that when we got to geometry, maybe they didn't need to learn proofs. I'd already had a question about why we were teaching math that nobody used. So we did do things a little different, but still we didn't have any kind of a good tool in our hand. And I didn't realize how important this was until one of our sons was already out of high school and had served our country and had come back and wanted to go into a trade and wanted to go into to welding and into a trade. And he came to me and he said, Mom, I don't have the math I need to do this. I don't. What happened? Why didn't you teach me that? He wasn't mean or anything. He just was desperate. And I became desperate, literally to tears, saying, Dear God, please help me because I don't know what I didn't teach him. I don't know what's missing. And within a couple of days, a mom, because I actually work as an academic counselor to homeschoolers, and a mom called me and said, Have you ever heard of this math? And a lot of times parents will call and say, What do you think of this? So I research and I get online. And the thing that fascinated me, I learned from the website that Dr. Dale had been tutoring math for years and that he was teaching a math that people actually used on their jobs, that he was tutoring people who were college graduates that didn't have the math they needed to do their job. And I thought, well, maybe he's got the answer for my son. And so I reached out and they were super helpful, super resourceful for us. They immediately got our son on the program and helped him get equipped. And it was so exciting to us that within just a short amount of time, he was able to fill in the gaps of the things he was missing and was getting jobs on the interview because he tested so well in the math area. And so I think the other thing that really touched my heart was he said, Mom, I always thought I was dumb in math. And now I realize I'm really good at math. And I realized it was the tool in his hand that helped him to excel in math. I actually thought, here's this, United States Marine Sergeant standing up 2 inches taller because his self-confidence was so much greater because he understood math. And as I've worked with a lot of boys throughout the last few years of help of telling people about triad math, I've seen that in other families where boys thought they were stupid. And I'm sure girls can feel the same way, but it seems to be real predominant in our young men that math, not being able to do math, makes them feel dumb and inadequate. And suddenly you give them a tool in their hand and they go, Oh, I do understand math. I can go get a really good job making really good money. Math's not going to hold me back. So I do encourage parents to give it a try, to at least let their children get in there and learn, because we had no idea starting out what an impact it was going to make on our son's life.
Well, thank you, Margie. That is very inspirational. We've had, as it turns out, we've had many stories like this. Your son was what I would call fairly typical. I would say 90% of the high school graduates in this United States are in the situation your son was in. And even the ones that passed math in high school didn't get to write math. Like he did, he passed math in high school, right?
Oh, yeah.
He got through it, but it was the wrong math. Content is everything, and pedagogy is the other thing, and that's what we teach. And today, as you know, we have something we call the Triad Math Army, and a person can join that army and have access to all the math that your son did, and really a lot more math beyond that, if they're interested in science and engineering and go way deeper into it. And also what we call wisdom tools, which are now your son was a benefit of a lot of wisdom tools you gave him, because people that come from a religious family and a family like yours are given a lot of the wisdom tools that a lot of children don't have. I was very blessed myself to have a family that gave me some wisdom tools and a church that gave me wisdom tools and other people. But a lot of people don't, so we give them that too. And they join the Army. And the good news is they get to join it, and the first 30 days is free if they don't see the great benefit of it. And then after that, it's $30 a month. It's pretty inexpensive, and it will improve their life dramatically in many ways. And so thank you so much for your testimonial. And we'll put a link below the video where they can go and go to the Triad Math Army and join it if they want to, or parents can go there and look at it and maybe put their children into it and so on. And there's a lot of, it's a complicated thing, and there's a lot to it. So do you have any other comments or questions?
Nope, I'm just glad I got to share that story, and I hope it inspires a lot of other families to step out and do something different and not stick with what we've always done. Because, I always say that's the purest form of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect something different to happen. And with homeschooling, that's the big thing we have the opportunity to do is to do whatever works for our children and to make them successful and get them prepared to be adults.
I agree with that. And the good news is today that any parent can do this at home with their child because it's all online, it's all automated. Even if your child's going to a public school or a private school, this would still benefit them tremendously. We have students going to regular schools, taking our program on their own time at home, and it helps them in their schools as well as doing these other things. So, Margie, she's been with us a long time. It's been wonderful. She's told lots of people this story, and they benefited from it. How many people would you guesstimate you've helped improve their lives over the last several years now by essentially telling them that story?
No, I have no idea, guys. I try to tell everybody that I work with that's got a seventh, eighth, ninth high school, or even some seniors, that I'm able to talk to them and say, they probably didn't get what they need. They should at least go back through the program and fill in the gaps like our son did, that they can be ready for engineer school. I know I had a student that went through the whole program and tested out of every engineering math class he needed for college. And so there's just a lot of stuff in our standard math curriculum that's a waste of time. And I'm not a person to waste time. My background was cost accounting. And even though I liked math in school, I did well in math, I realized that we were wasting a lot of time and that we didn't need to do that. And also, I loved the program because I didn't need to know the math. Again, I was an accountant for years. I never used any of the high level math. And so I didn't need it. But I would love it that in the program the kids have or the students have a way to go ask questions and get help with a certain problem, and I didn't have to be the one to relearn it because I didn't need to do it at my stage of the game. So I really think it allows the parent that maybe feel intimidated by math to allow their child to go on and do engineering math, and they don't have to feel like they have to know it because you're going to teach it to them.
Well, it does. Your son took the first two tiers, which was practical math, which is all you need if you're going into a technical subject. If you're going into science and engineering, you need deeper math with calculus and differential equations, and there's a
Yeah.
modern tool to do that I teach in the
I
upper
think he
tiers.
did. Yeah, I think he did the three tiers because he went through the trig
Yeah.
because the trig is what he needed. That was a big thing that he would have never done in high
No,
school
he
because it's so
he
far
got he,
past.
he got that in tier two. He got practical trigonometry in tier two. I don't even teach trig in tier three because they've already got the practical trig. Now in the upper tiers, I do it much deeper. As a matter of fact, I wrote a book recently, and you're very inspirational for this. Public School Math is Destroying the USA. And you get a free PDF copy on my website, or you go to Amazon and buy it for less than $5. And this will tell you all the story about my story, how it came about, and the modern math. What's wrong with current math education? You were a victim of the current math education system. All teachers are, by the way, that even teach it in public schools. Then it talks about our program, which is 21st century math that hasn't caught on to the schools yet. And so somebody can get this book and read it, and they'll fairly understand. So anyway, Margie, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. Thank you for this testimonial, and continue having a wonderful life.
Right, you too. Thank you.
Bye bye.